It's a Travion Henderson explosion on Thursday Night Football for fantasy. And Joe Bartel breaks it all down for us. Stick around. Coming up next, Manchild Show with Boy Green. We start right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. Cause Manchild Sport, it's all we're gonna do. If Boy Green is always on the scene, it was gonna always bring to life. So get ready. Get ready, cause here they come.
Oh, man, can we just rewind Thursday Night Football and put a better defense out there for crying out loud? What's wrong with your team, Boy Green? Giving up all those points to the man-child. In the Triple C League, I was up against Diggs and Henderson. I'm behind 50-something already, for God's sakes. Oh, Lordy. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's our Friday live show, all things fantasy football, brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria, where it's always love at first slice. We'll hear a little bit more from our friends at Cam's in just a little bit. See Paul enjoying a slice in that commercial. But without further ado, let's bring him in. We talk fantasy football with him every week. He's our fantasy insider from RotoWire.com, and it's Joe Bartel. What's up, Joe? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I didn't end up watching the entirety of that game. I actually thought the Jets would be able to maybe cover the spread, and I guess technically in certain places at 13 you're able to get it, but on my article I had 12.5, so was very annoyed at how anemic the offense is. And I would imagine Tyrod Taylor is quarterback at least next week and probably rest of season, because if you can't run a functioning offense that requires the ball to be passed down the field, you just can't be the starting quarterback no matter how electric Fields is. Fields, by the way, gets over 20 fantasy points in most leagues. So despite how awful that looked, and it's looked now for the entire season, Fields has still been a fantasy mainstay when he's been effectively healthy and playing, which is, I think, one of the reasons why, if we're going to talk about like nerfing full point PPR leagues, let's nerf rushing quarterback yards, because I don't want Fields to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback when he plays, and he has been for most of the weeks that he's been available, which is crazy.
You just stole my thunder, Joe, because what I was going to say is Justin. So Drake May is my quarterback in 2 of the 3 leagues that we have in both the Chumps League and the Triple C League, and I had him on my bench in the Champs League all season. I traded him a few weeks ago. So I've loved him all year. He was outscored by Fields. Anybody that watched that game last night was like, man, Drake May, MVP candidate. Justin Fields, please, if I don't ever have to see him in a Jet uniform again, I'll be a happy camper. And meanwhile, you look down at the fantasy sheet, you're like, oh, 4 more points for Fields. Like, what is wrong? That's what drives me a little crazy about fantasy sometimes. Yeah. And something we all need to understand. You are chasing points. You are not necessarily chasing performance.
No style points, right?
Yeah, so I was trying to think about this in the drive in today. How would you try to negate a Fields performance from last night to be a fantasy relevant one? Is it kind of like where we do defenses? If a defense allows 35 points, you start getting negative points. Like if you're under 100 passing yards, that'd be -2. Or if you're under 50% completion percentage on 20 attempts, right? So you'd like 9 of 20, like you have negative points in that. What is the way? Because you don't want to remove the rushing yards aspect. A guy like Drake May is an MVP level quarterback because he can do that. Not just that he's so statuesque in the pocket and seems to be never rattled. I was super impressed by Drake May for what it's worth. I agree with you guys, like or at least Jim. Like I thought he was fantastic. And at least here in Wisconsin, we don't get to see many Drake May games unless I'm actively trying to pirate the high seas. And yeah, I thought that was I knew he was that good. I've watched clips of him. I thought that was a very impressive performance from May. And regardless of how bad the Jets defense was, and it is bad, that I think May is he is it. Like I feel much better saying about May is that quarterback that had Jaden Daniels last year. I feel better about May as that quarterback as opposed to rookie year CJ Stroud, right? Like I think Drake May is going to be that guy for a long, long time. But I don't know what that would be. My counter is maybe having negative points for bad passing performances or completion percentage. But even then, there are instances where you can have a bad game from a quarterback perspective, and it's not on you. Like if a receiver drops the ball or whatever else. So I don't know how to counteract that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I want to plug this several times, as we will throughout the broadcast. If you have questions out in the audience, Joe Bartel is here for you. He is your everything. And he is Joe Bartel of RotoWire.com, our fantasy football expert. So submit your questions throughout. We're on YouTube, MC Show Digital, Boy Green 25 on YouTube, and at Boy Green 25 on Twitter. So keep submitting in your questions, and we'll answer them throughout the program here. We were talking about it a little bit before the show here, Joe Bartel, Travion Henderson. And Lerch's frustration is like with coaches, right? Patriot fans, if you ask any of them, they've been begging for Travion Henderson to get more of a workload, but Ramondre Stevenson's the guy there, and the coaches, for whatever reason, sometimes lean towards the veteran and give them the opportunities and force the rookie to sort of earn their way. But you have to think with another sterling performance for Travion Henderson, is this not the first time he's put up this kind of performance, that whenever Ramondre Stevenson eventually comes back healthy, they're going to have to give more work here to Travion Henderson. But get us into the psyche of NFL coaches. What is it? Why not just go to the guy that seems to be doing, he's younger, he's explosive, he can do all these different things? Why is there such a reluctance? And this is not the only situation, of course, in New England. It happens everywhere, where NFL coaches refuse to play what appears to be the better player.
Well, let's go back a step here, because I don't know if Henderson is going to be guaranteed to get the workload that we would all like to see in the coming weeks. I thought last night's performance actually wasn't all that good for Travion Henderson. Yes, he scores 3 touchdowns. He's wide open in the reception, right? 32 fantasy points is great. I put a lot of, I would say like 95% on the Patriots offensive line not looking as good as I thought it'd be, or as sharp as I thought it'd be. Henderson, I believe on some of the metric sites, has one of the best broken tackle rates of a single game from last night, right? And there was a lot of that. I thought Henderson missed some holes. And I sometimes think I would rather have my running back just get 4 yards as opposed to, oh, well, he did cool things, made 2 guys miss to get 5 yards. Right? Like I think there is value in that. And I thought Henderson, again, maybe that's the 5% I put blame on him, wasn't hitting the holes that were possibly available for easier yardage. That he got the hard yards is great. That's what you want your running back to be able to do. But there are sometimes easier yards to be able to go get. And that's where I go back to what I think Ramondre Stevenson will be. And you talk about Boy Green, like, the short week, he wasn't available. I think a lot of people are assuming he'll be available next week as well, too. Whereas the split for Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson prior to Stevenson's injury was probably like 70-30%. What we have seen the past 2 weeks and the explosiveness of Travion Henderson, and that he hasn't fumbled and has looked good in the opportunities he's gotten, will probably, in my mind, make it closer to 50-50 or even 60-40 Ramondre Stevenson. But that we even have to do 60-40 or 50-50 is to the point where you guys are talking about, where this is frustrating. And I mean, I'm clearly not an NFL caliber athlete or anything like that, but I did play high school football, and you guys have talked to a lot of high school football coaches. I really don't think, and it might be dumb for a guy like Mike Vrabel, who has played in the NFL and was successful for a long time, probably should be a Hall of Famer, at least from that era. I don't think it's that much different than what our experiences are in sports, where you want a guy that's a leader. You want a guy that you're comfortable and reliable with what he can do. There's a personality aspect as a veteran of the team and what you want other Patriots to strive for. Ramondre Stevenson does. That's why we reward him a contract. He's always showing up. He plays through injuries for the most part. Like, there's a lot of that extracurricular things that just from a play perspective, yeah, you have a second round pick for Travion Henderson. You'd like that investment to look good. But when we have a veteran that we trust and can give you the grinding yards in between the tackles, there is value in that. I mean, that's no different than any of the other high school sports that you guys cover, or what the audience lists as well too. Like, even if it's dating back to the 80s, like, that is a fundamental thing that I think we have all experienced in sports, is that the teammates aspect makes a big difference. So I'm not expecting Travion Henderson to earn a significantly bigger workload than what he was earlier this year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots are kind of slow playing this for when the postseason comes. You are then breaking out Travion Henderson, because at that point, it isn't, let's go ahead and have the veteran out there. We like what Ramondre Stevenson brings from a camaraderie perspective. It is, what is the guy that gives us the best chance to score? Every single game leading throughout the postseason, the Patriots will probably be underdogs in at least 2 of those 4 games if they make it to where they want to go. Can Travion Henderson be an explosive player to get his points on the board? Yes is the answer. And I don't think that always matters, especially with the cupcake regular season schedule that the Patriots have had all year. I think there are other avenues to make your team better without saying Henderson has to be touching the ball 100% of the time.
So, Joe, is that the strategy you believe the Jets are employing, that they're holding things back for the playoffs? That's why we haven't seen all the cards out on the table and wins and statistics and things. Are they holding things back? Is that what's happening?
I think they're holding things back so Aaron Glenn doesn't get fired. I think if the Jets were actually passing the ball like any other normal team in the NFL, Aaron Glenn would look a lot stupider for all the baloney that he's done. Like, I don't know if we're going to play Fields or Tyrod Taylor. It's a competitive advantage for us. No, it's not. Right. So, like, I actually do think in that regard, Aaron Glenn is playing for his job, where he doesn't want to showcase how miserable his offense is. And if we just have some wishbone sort of level offense with Justin Fields, I can't look that bad. See, Justin Fields is bad. It's not Aaron Glenn, the head coach. I do think he's holding back things in that regard.
Yeah, I was actually kind of pleased that they decided to run Fields a little bit, because that is the one thing that he actually does bring to the table, and the fantasy numbers would prove it as well. Joe, let me ask you about another resurgence in New England. With Drake May doing what he's doing, we have seen Stephon Diggs be more than relevant. He's been solid. I know Boy Green has him rostered in the Champs League. Playing me this week, by the way. We'll get into that a little later.
Thanks, Stephon.
Let's talk about Stephon Diggs and what he could bring the rest of the season. Is he now into that wide receiver 2, even wide receiver 1 conversation?
Definitely wide receiver 2. I don't think wide receiver 1. And this has happened the past 2 weeks in large part with Kayshon Boutte out. And not that Boutte was going to be a volume guy or has ever been this season for the Patriots, but an explosive play Kayshon Boutte has been able to make, I feel like more often than not, kind of like Alec Pierce of the Colts, where here's going to be a 40-yard reception every single week or a 30-yard reception. And that either allows the Patriots to be in scoring range or Boutte ends up scoring himself. And just when that happens consistently, a guy like Diggs, who is really predicated from a fantasy value on getting a lot of volume, that happens less because either the Patriots score because Boutte scores a touchdown and they're up, let's just say 21-14, and they can kind of use the running game, or Kayshon Boutte gets in the red zone and Diggs really isn't one of those guys. Like, he's probably fourth among that group, whether it be Trayvon Henderson or Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, Drake May himself. Like, there's other avenues besides Stephon Diggs scoring touchdowns. So you need the explosive plays to not happen as much in order for Stephon Diggs to be realizing the fantasy value that I thought he was going to be entering the year. That was one of my guys I loved drafting round 8 or 9. And we knew that there was going to be a time period where he had to get past that ACL surgery that he had midseason last year. I think we're well realized to that point. And also that the Patriots offense uses Stephon Diggs as that intermediate threat, as a here's an 8-yard, just watch Stephon Diggs run a route and throw to him thing. Like, this is very, very useful to have that in the NFL. Is that my team, the Packers, is incapable of doing that, it seems like, this year, especially with no Tucker Kraft. Like, to have a veteran that could just get open at will every time, it's sort of why Keenan Allen's still hanging around at this point in his career too. I think that's really important for the Patriots offense, but does not make Stephon Diggs wide receiver 1, I don't think.
All right. Brock Purdy is likely to return to the starting lineup this weekend for the 49ers. What do you make of that? And also the ripple effects that obviously would have on all of the San Francisco 49ers pass catchers, running backs, and things of that nature.
Yeah, and Ricky Pearsall is supposed to be making his return after multiple games as well, too. I would imagine, unless I'm just understanding how this Ricky Pearsall injury is, which is entirely possible given the Niners, that Pearsall is going to be slow played into this. That it would be catastrophic if, after everything they've went through all season, he aggravates it for a second time, but has an injury for a third time. So I'm assuming Ricky Pearsall is not getting a ton of playing time. And in that regard, Juwan Jennings, to me, is right in that same range as Stephon Diggs, where Jennings now 2 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks against the Cardinal secondary that could be missing 2 different starters on top of all the injuries they've had this year. Brock Purdy has looked to Juwan Jennings often, especially when there's been no Brandon Ayuk, which, of course, we have no end in sight for that one. And even though George Kittle will be out there, that's to help the running game. So Christian McCaffrey probably gets a little less volume. It's okay. He's still running back 3 overall in fantasy and probably will be the rest of the season. But I do think Juwan Jennings elevates not quite into must-start territory, but maybe rest of season, where I thought he'd be more like a wide receiver 30. He could be more like wide receiver 20, given I think he has a very safe floor with Brock Purdy as his quarterback the rest of the way.
Joe, looking at this week's slate, I mean, there are some terrific games on tap. When I look at it from a fantasy standpoint, I'm looking to see, are there any shootouts out there and any big point games? I got 3 targeted. You tell me which of the 3, or is there another game on the slate that you like? But number 1, I see that game between the Rams and Seattle. That has the potential to be a high-scoring back-and-forth affair. It'd be lovely to have some players in those lineups. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, that was big time last time. They both were in the 30s. Could it go in the 30s again? This time it's in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh lost a nail biter to Joe. That was when they brought Joe Flacco in. He came right in, and Mike Tomlin was chirping about it all week. And even the Bills in Tampa has the possibility of being a shootout. Let's talk about shootouts and how that can affect fantasy.
Yeah, Bengals Steelers 33-31. That was Flacco's second start, the first one against my Packers, in which the Packers narrowly won. Flacco throws for close to 400 yards. Rodgers has a pretty good game from a fantasy perspective too. I see that happening. Now, there is weather and potentially weather significantly involved. The Bears-Giants game, for example, last week was one I thought there was going to be a lot of points for. I think the total for that was at 46.5. I looked at that initially when I did my write-up on Wednesday. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. It's going to be like the Bengals-Bears game from the week before, where they're both going to score 40 points. But you saw pretty early on that each team was just scared of the wind and the rain and the bluster. And I think that's going to kind of happen here for Steelers-Bengals. So that game was the first one I thought, oh yeah, for sure it's going to be high scoring. Maybe not. And that would benefit the Steelers, of course, if they're able to kind of muck up the game a little bit. I don't think Rams-Seahawks is a high-scoring game. I know Vegas seems to think that could be, but I think the Rams defense will present problems for Sam Darnold, like we saw in the playoffs, of course, last year. But also the offensive line for the Seahawks, which has basically been pitching a shutout through 10 weeks, they're going to struggle. I mean, we thought this was one of the worst offensive line units entering the league. That they have done so well this year is not at all a slight if they struggle a little bit against the Rams pass rush. It's good. And if Sam Darnold isn't perfect, what does that Seahawks offense look like as well? So I think that game is going to be one where the Rams will be able to score when they want to, but they might want to actually slow the pace down a little bit to make sure the Seahawks can't do the same thing and give Sam Darnold some confidence. So I think it's Bills-Buccaneers. That's probably the highest scoring game of the slate. And I sort of wonder if the Buccaneers outright win this game. Again, I know you guys are going to do your picks in a little bit, but I have not been impressed, especially post Ed Oliver injury, what the Bills defense has done, especially from the rushing perspective. And no, I don't think Bucky Irving plays. I don't think Rashad White really does that, but Sean Tucker might have an interesting game as well, running in that interior of the Bills defense. And if Baker Mayfield can be the guy that he was earlier this season, or even just 85% of that, extending drives, making plays, still being the gunslinger, that's going to put pressure and the onus on that Bills offense to kind of keep pace. And I do think they can do that against this Buccaneers defense. So I'm going with Buffalo Bills Buccaneers as the highest scoring game of the week 11 slate.
Okay. All right, Joe. Let me give you a double dip Jets question. Of course, that's
Thank
what
goodness.
you want to answer.
Yes.
Here. First off, Garrett Wilson gets placed on injured reserve. He's out for 4 games. The next 4, well, including the Patriots game, 3 more games left. Excuse me. For Garrett Wilson, is he droppable? Is he a trade asset potentially for one of those teams that can afford to just stack him on IR, give up a somewhat usable piece to someone right now and stack him? And then the other side of that question is there any Jets pass catcher worth? Garrett Wilson's out. He had a 40% target share. Like, that's a lot of opportunities for somebody. Is it Mason? Is it Breece Hall? Is there a receiver that eats some of that up? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sure
Boy Green's looking to unload Wilson.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm sure
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I'm
He's
sure
probably
you
got
can
him
use
rostered on all 3 teams, I think.
Jedi mind trick to Austin or whatever to give Garrett Wilson for, I don't know, Josh Allen or whatever it's going to be. Brock Bowers, here's Garrett Wilson for Brock Bowers. No, Garrett Wilson, I don't think he's droppable per se, but there is absolutely zero value in him fantasy wise. I mean, that we're going to talk about, maybe he returns for the first week of the fantasy playoffs, if not the second.
Correct. Yeah.
And the offense already is one of the worst in the league, and there's no guarantee Tyrod Taylor's the quarterback at that point. No, Garrett Wilson is unacquirable. If you have him on the roster, I don't think there's any reason to drop him unless you're in leagues that you can't stash these injured reserve guys. But no, he should not be acquired in any sort of facet. And I would assume once Tyrod Taylor is the quarterback next week, and he's going to be, because Fields has been so bad, and you can't have an offense like this like they have for the past couple weeks. Mason Taylor gets a bit more bump because he has been a valuable guy for Tyrod Taylor at that point. But otherwise, Josh Reynolds, Mason Taylor? I don't.
Josh Reynolds is on IR too.
So yeah. Okay. So I was going to say A.D. Mitchell, not Mason Taylor as a repeat again. Like, I like A.D. Mitchell. I actually think next year, when there's a better quarterback in place, and there has to be by default a better quarterback, I'll be interested in A.D. Mitchell as a last pick. Hey. But no, I just don't. I don't know what Tyrod Taylor is supposed to do other than Mason Taylor to make that offense throw for more than 220 yards. No, right. I just think nobody's
trade offer to Joe Bartel. Damn it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just whoever you're going to try to hoodwink, please at least make them go back and watch this video, because every other person in the world should understand that nobody needs to acquire Garrett Wilson.
Talking with Joe Bartel, RotoWire.com. It's our fantasy football segment. It's brought to you by our friends at Box Drop Syracuse. Let's just take 30 seconds, learn a little bit more about our friends from Box Drop and our friends from Play It Again Sports. Stick around.
When you don't want to pay full price for sporting goods, and who does, then there's only one place to go in Syracuse. Play It Again Sports. With both new and gently used gear, Play It Again has prices way less than regular retail stores. Another unique aspect of this awesome sporting goods store is that they will give you money for that quality sports gear collecting dust in your basement, attic, or garage. No appointment necessary, just bring it into the store. Play It Again Sports in the DeWitt Town Center on Erie Boulevard, right next to Crunch Fitness. Don't spend more, play it again. Play It Again Sports Syracuse.
Considering that we sleep nearly 1/3 of our lives, buying the right mattress is essential. At Box Drop Syracuse Mattress and Sofa Outlet, you'll get a unique experience, one that saves you 30 to 70% off retail prices on top-of-the-line mattresses like Sapphire Sleep. At Box Drop, you'll schedule a mattress fitting appointment and get one-on-one service directly with Paul, the owner. No middleman. Family-owned, huge savings, no-pressure sales designed to save you time and money. And now Box Drop Syracuse has sectional sofas and love seats as well, with prices designed to fit your budget. Box Drop Syracuse mattress and sofas. Set up your appointment today at boxdropsyracuse.com. Back with Joe Bartel, and if you want to jump into the comments, we'd love to get to some of your questions in just a moment. Anything in the world of fantasy football, trades, sit starts, any other questions you have about this weekend in fantasy. We are in week 11 of the NFL season. It is getting hot and heavy. People starting to position for playoffs. We're also approaching trade deadline day, Joe, coming up, usually right around Thanksgiving time for most leagues. Some come a little before, some come right about Thanksgiving. Talk a little bit about what you might want to do roster-wise when it comes to trades as the trade deadline approaches. What should be the approach if you're at the top of the standings, if you're in the middle of the standings, or if you're at the bottom of the standings?
Yeah, so first off, there's going to be a lot of people asking, like, should I trade for this guy or trade specific targets? We're actually going to have a piece on RotoWire. I think it's probably going to be published either later this evening or tomorrow morning that I'm going over. We have a rest of season schedule tool that I want to look at and kind of analyze a little bit further and dive into specific targets. So quarterback, running back, receiver, that will be on my Twitter, JB Fantasy Sports, again, either tonight or tomorrow morning. And I'll kind of push that out throughout the week. And then we're going to try to analyze that with our trade grade tool at RotoWire next week as well. So kind of an all-encompassing thing with RotoWire. If you have a subscription, I think it's YouTube 15 gets you 15% off to go ahead and look at that or use our tools on RotoWire itself. Again, I'll have the trade analyzer and targets to go after over the next, I would say, 5 to 7 days on the RotoWire site. Specifically, I think there's opportunities if you're high in the standings, sort of capitalize. And now we've talked about, I think in past weeks, you and I were both hot and heavy on Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jackson Smith and Jake Bub when the Lions and Seahawks were on their bye. That's the best example to go ahead and do so. There's a few more teams right now that are in that position. But when we're talking about week 11, most teams are past their bye. And unfortunately, most of the good teams are already past their bye, like the Lions, the Chiefs. We're sitting on the Colts right now with Jonathan Taylor, for example, but a lot of these really good teams are already past that point. So where you can kind of talk your league mates into, well, you can't afford to wait one more week with this guy and buy, here's a 2-for-1 sort of deal. That's sort of past now at this point. And I think my I'll call it like the get off my lawn sort of take. If you are 2-8, 3-7, you should be barred in most formats from making any sort of trades that will impact the top of the standings. You're done. Unfortunately, the luck hasn't worked your way. Maybe in certain scenarios where it's just a total points thing. I'm in some leagues where that is the case. I'm fine with competing to that point. But if you are at the point where you are basically out of it, if you're on ESPN or Yahoo, your chance to make the playoffs is like 2%. You should not be allowed to make trades that will significantly impact the top of the standings. I understand playing it out. You should be making waiver wire moves. That's totally fine, but you should not be making trades. So if I'm of that opinion, if you're at the top of the standings, there's only maybe 3 or 4 teams that you can trade with. And it has to make sense for both parties to go ahead and do that. So, I mean, it's a tough spot to be in. Obviously, every league is different. The way we have things now where there's incentivizing to avoid the bottom 3, I'm all for that sort of stuff. But in most formats, if you are 2-8, 3-7, you really shouldn't be making moves.
Hey, by the way, I just want to throw this up on the screen. That is the code directly. Use code YouTube15 at checkout for 15% off any RotoWire subscription. That is right there also on the RotoWire website.
All right, I'm going to go to the comments, and we'll just start at the top and work our way down.
Sure.
Big Al just popping in saying good morning, and good morning to you as well, Al. We follows that up with, hey, Joe, thanks for the absolute smackdown last weekend. It was horrible. I was done before the 1 o'clock game started, but that's fantasy. I guess you had a little battle with Al last weekend. You fared pretty well, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, that was the Jonathan Taylor 50-point game. That was great. It was glad that I had him on my roster and didn't go for the Jedi mind trick from Boy Green, who on Jonathan Taylor's one bad game all season, by the way, which was like 10 points, he sends a text and is like, hey, what would it take to get Jonathan Taylor?
Wait.
I answered your entire team, and even then I wouldn't do that deal anyhow, because we are still very much embargo on Boy Green trades altogether. Yeah. And how dare you ask for literally the best player in fantasy on his worst week? That's such a Boy Green type of move.
Whoa. Let me completely lay it straight here as the straight man on the show, okay? Let me just make this absolutely clear. I did not try to reach out to Jonathan Taylor on his bad week. I'm going to be honest. This is what I tried to do. When I looked at my roster, I went, I had a strategy. Normally, as a former running back, I'll just lay it all on the line. You guys probably know, playing fantasy with me for a long time, I love running backs. I'm a former running back. I am the old school. I'm caveman. Well, first round, I take the best running back available. And I do that all the time. This year, I'm like, let's mix it up. And I went all these different strategies. Wide receivers.
Jamar Chase.
Sure. Yeah, that was great. And then I hit it back with other receivers. And I was like, oh, good value. Oh, this, oh, this, oh, this. And then I went like, oof. These running backs look a little. J.K. Dobbins. I went like, Tony Pollard, and I've been going through that, and they've just been between 8 and 12 points. That's the window every week, and I'm like, God, this is so annoying. So I looked through every team in the league, said, please, I will sell the farm. I just want a running back that I can rely on. So I went through. I went, Jonathan Taylor for Joe. I'm like, I will give up my firstborn son. What do I need to do to get Jonathan Taylor? So Joe, see, he interpreted it like I was trying to swindle somebody else, but I was totally looking through every team in the league to say, does anyone have a bell cow running back that in any world they may even think about potentially parting with? So that was my intentions. My intentions were pure, absolutely pure and innocent.
Now it's all cleared up. So cleared up.
Thank you.
All right, rolling through the comments here. Jamie, the FedEx guy, says, fellas, I was 2-6, and in 12th place, I'm winning 8. I'm winning out 8 and 6, and all the 6 and 4 teams are going to go 2 and 2 down the stretch, and I'm going to finish in 2nd or 3rd place. Jamie sent me this in a text this morning. I was like, all right, fella, calm down. How about number 1, stay out of the bottom 3, and then maybe second goal is get yourself to 6th place and try and get into playoffs, because if Jamie's team does get into playoffs, he'd have a swing at it like anyone else. Half of it is swing at the pinata, baby. You got to be in it to win it. My focus would be to be in 6th place. But, of course, Jamie, he is the always glasses half full kind of guy. So trying to climb his way up. Joe, do you think it's possible that he can get that far?
I'm in 6th place. So I would appreciate if maybe he's like 5th, and then I'll stay in 6th place. You guys know I've been talking about Jamie's team all year. I think it's pretty good. I think the Dwight Schrute paperclip method to get a house now has been awesome for the roster, and he has a lot of depth. I think there are certain just fantasy football is unlucky at certain times. Like, right, we talked about that last week where I have 4 losses by combined 17 points. I have one of the top scores in the league, but I also have the most points, or one of the most points scored against me as well too. I think Jamie does have the most points. So scored against him. I like his team a lot, and I think he will be a problem if he makes the playoffs. There are multiple teams currently sliding in the playoffs right now that I think are significantly worse than Jamie's team. So I'm rooting for that scenario too.
Yeah, and I would just say this: there's just a very small hole in Jamie's plan. We have 4 6 and 4 teams. A lot of them are playing each other, so they can't all lose out. Somebody's got to win.
He's saying they got to go 2 and 2, and he has to win out. So he's painted a scenario where he goes 4-0. And those teams all go 2 and 2, and he could, because of his points, slip all the way up to 2nd or 3rd. He's not wrong in saying that. Which, with them playing each other, is possible. I think he's actually looked at this, Boy Green. He's got a whole chart on his wall at home.
I know he's looked
written in crayon. All right, and he's figured this whole scenario out. I trust me.
But if they play if enough teams with 3 weeks plus to play each other, half of them have to keep winning. So then he can't leapfrog them if they keep winning. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense.
Good point. All right, Build the Produce guy in for a usual question, Joe. He says, running back, I need 2. Tracy, Jones,
Aaron
Walker.
Jones.
Yeah. This is a tough one. I think Aaron Jones probably needs to be in the starting lineup right now. So to me, it's Tracy or Walker. I think your Giants outright, Jim, win. I think they win against my Packers. I feel very confident about that. No quarterback, no wide receiver 1, no running back 1, no quarterback 1. That's the scenarios the Packers always lose. I think the Giants do win this one. I've watched DeVito win games against the Packers as well too. So
Monday Night Football.
In that scenario, Tyrone Tracy is your running back when they're trying to run out the clock. You would think it's Devin Singletary. The Giants are so dumb; they're going to keep doing those things all the time. I think I'm playing Tyrone Tracy over Kenneth Walker. I mean, Walker's just not scoring touchdowns. Charbonnet ends up getting more work. I would like to see Tracy more involved as a pass catcher. Maybe that actually happens one of these weeks too. So to me, it's Aaron Jones and Tyrone Tracy.
What's the playing level of Zach Charbonnet? So we talked way earlier in the season, Joe. You had a sense that Kenneth Walker was not going the direction he wanted, and you were trying to trade him. And now you have Charbonnet, who's in the mix. He's an intriguing player, but obviously he's in the same backfield as Kenneth Walker. Does he have any standalone value?
Yeah, I mean, from a red zone perspective, he's been the guy that's been punching on the touchdowns. I would assume against the Rams, again, we talk about being a higher scoring, lower scoring game. I don't know if there's going to be many opportunities. So you need Charbonnet to score a touchdown for him to be even a flex worthy category. I don't want to bet on that this week. There's probably better options, but again, you're missing Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara from the bye week perspective. There's been some injuries as well too. J.K. Dobbins probably done for basically the entire season as well. He might return week 16, semifinals for the fantasy playoff. So I maybe you're playing Charbonnet, but I think that's one of those I try to avoid if possible.
Here's a good one from Jacob Wolf. He says, thoughts on selling high on Henderson for Rico Dowdle? Is that a swap you'd make while Henderson's hot? Maybe he's got another owner that's more interested in Henderson. He can get himself some Dowdle.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept because nobody would say it's Rico Dowdle's the sell high 3 or 4 weeks ago. Even when he's been playing well for the Panthers, that was a waiver wire pickup in a lot of places, or one of your last round selections that maybe you sat on just to see from a hopes perspective. But when we adjust our mindset, Rico Dowdle has been a top 10 fantasy running back basically since he's taken over for Carolina. I think that's probably sell high. I would do that deal. I would rather have Rico Dowdle rest of season. Now, we watched with the Saints last week. That Panthers offense isn't very good. And when a team commits to stopping Rico Dowdle, they can do so because he's kind of just that level of running back. He's not a Jonathan Taylor. He's not a Derrick Henry in that regard. So I would rather have Rico Dowdle rest of season. That's what this question is. And I would be totally fine selling Rico Dowdle for Travion Henderson, given that there's some upside with what it could be. And if he gets more playing time, if Ramondre Stevenson's out longer than we think, Henderson's going to be in the spot to score touchdowns and do it very effectively too.
All right. Matt and Auburn jumping in here. Flex odd man out. Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, Pat Freiermuth.
I would rank it Christian Watson, then Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth had 110 and 2 touchdowns against the Bengals when they played 4 weeks ago. I think Freiermuth has like a career average of like 85 yards and a touchdown or something like that against the Bengals started the course of his career. Like he's just been a Cincinnati Bengal killer. And I don't know if there's gonna be a lot of points in there. Again, if there is weather conditions involved, that could impact things a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Freiermuth is one of those guys I picked up in a deep league to kind of be a play this week too. And even if Matthew Golden is available, I think Christian Watson's going to get more volume. Romeo Doubs had left that loss to the Eagles with a chest injury. We'll see what his status is. And Dontavian Wicks has been more involved, but the explosive player against that secondary, it's Christian Watson. I think he'll be the guy that I would rather have.
Again, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe here at MC Show Digital, baby. This is a long one, Joe, here from Alex about asking for his rest of season outlook moving forward here. That's his full team. We won't read the full team, but it is a 10-man league, PPR, full point PPR, excuse me. He's 7-3.
Yeah, really like it. You look at Henderson now getting to be the running back one for the Patriots in recent weeks, but you have Bucky Irving in that spot as well, too. And I like RJ Harvey now again with J.K. Dobbins probably out till second round of the playoffs in fantasy. So 4 quality running backs. And then you'd be really happy with those receivers, Emeka, Jackson Smith, and Jigba as well, too. And then Trey McBride probably in the beneficiary spot. I think trying to find a way to get maybe the third receiver from those running backs, could you move Travion Henderson for Chris Olave, for example, with the idea that RJ Harvey now rest of the year will be a very easy starting candidate? Is there something higher that you could do with Travion Henderson plus Alec Pierce or Tyler Algier? I'm not sure, but I mean, that's going to be one of the best teams I'd imagine throughout the course of the playoffs. I think it's very good.
You know, Joe, our league every week, Yahoo started doing that this year where they have a featured matchup every week and they kind of put little graphic around it.
Oh, yeah.
Noticed every week. It's me against Boy Green this week in the Champs League, 1 against 4. But I actually think the featured matchup should have been Joe Bartel against Brian Drake, a little fantasy on fantasy action. How you feeling about taking on Drake? I know you don't have your mainstay, Jonathan Taylor. You mentioned it earlier. It's his bye week. So, man, what a week to not have him against the other fantasy guy. But how do you like your chances against Drake this week?
Yeah, no Jonathan Taylor, no Chris Olave, no Juwan Johnson. So 3 starters for me. And you'd think with 2 teams on bye, how does that happen? But yeah, that's it. But only projected to lose by 11, as Boy Green knows, that matters absolutely nothing. I mean, like, I could be in risk of falling into the bottom 3. I think my team is actually really good. I've had a lot of really bad luck, but we're at 1 loss away from kind of being that spot, especially with how good Jamie's team has been in recent weeks. And I think my schedule, I did look at this, is pretty difficult. Now, I could easily make the playoffs because I'm playing teams that are kind of all in that same sort of range, but could easily fall out of it as well too. So we'll have to see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I would assume I'll lose this week. I don't feel like that's any indication that my team is bad, but yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough one. I'm surprised that Boy Green's 90-point team from last week is the game of the week though. So we'll have to see, because I think that team is not in contention for the playoffs in the same spot they were a couple weeks ago as well too.
Yes,
I'm not to
losers
prove
of 2 in a
Yahoo.
row.
They made a very bad choice there. Yeah, that should be a classic beatdown. Let's get that thing on. I'm glad
I
you.
can't believe.
I'm glad Stefan Diggs gave you a little hope last week, Boy Green.
Thank
Last
you.
night. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the beatdown this weekend. Oh boy.
I didn't
Oh
even
boy.
know that was an option. Lerch is saying, "Yeah, can we get a flex out here of the primetime game? Get us out!" Like, whoa, what the?
You're
how
used to that as a Jets
insulting.
fan, though. Come on.
Love it.
Oh,
Love it. Love it. Joe, always great. Always appreciate your insight every week. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. See you.
All right. There he is. Joe Bartel giving us some love. Fantasy football every single week. NFL picks coming up in a little bit, everybody. So tune back in for that. Boy Green, is there anything else we need to deal with before we get out of here? Let me see.
No, just a reminder. You guys will already see this on our Instagram for a fan of our Instagram. Our NFL picks against the spread. Do you want to prove that you're smarter than the experts? And as you'll see in our pick segment a little bit, the fans have totally bottomed out. So they're going to want to attempt to turn it around. Go to our Instagram right now at MC Show Digital and make sure you pick every game against the spread. That is on our Instagram story. So you guys can do that every Friday on our channel throughout the rest of the season. Although for Thanksgiving week, it'll be a little different. We'll explain that when we get there. But
right.
yes, so absolutely wanted to give that shout out.
Let's break this last comment down here. Squeezed it in before we got out of here by Alex Savin. And he says, I traded Nico and Barkley. Okay, so Saquon Barkley and Nico Collins for JSN and ETN. God, these initials are driving me crazy.
Yeah, Travis Etienne. Yeah.
ETN, right. ETN. Travis Etienne as an abbreviation.
The letters. ETN. I mean, that's his name.
I get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that makes
like
sense.
a license plate. I guess we're reading license plates.
Yeah,
sure. Week 4, then traded ETN and Gadsden for Egbuka. Okay, that's Egbuka. It's not an M in his name.
Yeah, it's a Mecca.
What do you think of those trades? What do you think of the moves?
Yeah, so a couple of things here. I love Saquon Barkley last year. He had the greatest single season from running back we've ever seen in history. He's just not it this year for whatever reason. It just hasn't clicked. So very smart on you to switch it out. I told Lerchis, who also was a guy who traded for JSN. And again, the craziness of fantasy here, that I was hovering and I was in our fantasy draft room in the Chumps League, and my player at the top of my board was JSN. I wanted JSN. I'm floating above him. Manchild's in front of me. And I'm like, come on, baby. Don't take JSN. And long story short, there's a longer story there, but we'll cut that short. He gets sniped and gets taken right before me. We're like, damn it. And he would have been this unbelievable pick for me. So I think JSN is like a league winner level player. I think he is the best receiver in football this year. It's not close. Sam Darnold's playing out of his mind. So in any situation to get JSN, I think is a massive win, especially with the up and down nature of CJ Stroud. So I think you totally won that trade. I know ETN can be a little up and down, especially with the Jaguars offense, but I think
better lately though, seemingly, he had that little spell and he's been a little bit better again.
Although it doesn't matter since he traded ETN anyway, a few weeks later, and ETN and Oronde Gadsden for Emeka Egbuka. Now Oronde Gadsden has amazing upside, and we could talk about that here from a Syracuse perspective, but I love, and while that's intriguing, depending on who your other tight end is, because in these questions, we don't know your full roster, but obviously you must have felt good enough about whoever you had already at tight end. So Emeka Egbuka has been absolutely wonderful this year. I loved him pre-draft, and he's been terrific in fantasy. So to be honest, Alex, I think you absolutely killed it on your trades and very aggressive strategy.
I mean, think about it. In the end, right? What he is? Can you put that back up for a second?
Sure. Okay.
In the end, when he's all said and done, he ended up with JSN and Egbuka, two premier receivers. Mm-hmm. And what he gave up was Nico Collins, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, and Gadsden.
Oronde Gadsden, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I like that. You got two super high quality guys you're starting every single week without fail. All right. And like Boy Green said, you got one of the best receivers in football. So yeah, I like the trades too. I think those are good moves. I think the other people will get utility out of those other players. ETN has had good weeks. Gadsden obviously has been coming on if he can stay healthy. Barkley, he's hit or miss this year. I wouldn't want him on my roster. And Nico Collins, again, if he could stay healthy to back end of this year, maybe Stroud, pulls it together a little bit. Maybe he makes a little bit of a run. But I'd rather have those two sure things. He's got the two sure things versus a lot of question marks. That's the way I look at that trade. Those couple of trades. So yeah, I think pretty good overall. All right, we're going to sign out here on Fantasy Football. Again, back next week with Joe Bartel, same bat time, same bat channel, 10:30 on Friday. But in the meantime, we'll take a little break out here, and then a little bit later today, we'll be dropping our NFL picks, every single game against the spread. Our good buddy why am I blanking? Matt Lombardo will be joining us for picks, as he always does. And of course, we have the usual crew making their picks from afar. Don't forget, as a fan, get on our Instagram account right now and make your picks. You got 24 hours to make your picks against the spread. See if the fans can show up for this one. All right. Until we see you a little bit later, thanks for tuning in, folks. Take care.